So I want to kick off here just with kind of a little funny anecdote. If you look at our presentation, it's in 4:3 instead of 16:9, like every other presentation of this entire conference. Anybody who works for a large enterprise may understand this has had to go through legal, it had to go through corporate communications, we had standardized templates, which not everybody talks about what you're supposed to use. So this is what we ended up with. So just pretend it fills the entire screen. So I'm Sean Thomas. I'm a systems engineering manager, full stack development team at Verizon. I've been with Verizon for 15 years now. I've got started as in an ops background, moved more into the development role, and then moved into the leadership route. My team does cloud engineering, we do analytics, we do ITSM, automation and tools. We kind of run the gamut just from a smaller team's perspective. Go ahead.
My name's Derek Meyer. I've been with Verizon now about 20 years. Started off kind of as a help desk person, hey, I need to reset your password, and changed from there. Now work on the automation and tools team, design a lot of different things for the company enterprise. Enjoy it, love it, wouldn't change a whole lot of it.
I'm gonna have to tiptoe to get up here. So our prezo that we're going to go through, I know we've had a ton of presentations that have had fantastic demos and technical information, everything else, and we're going to kind of take a step aside from that and really talk about more of what we did from a Verizon perspective to really implement Grafana and what we're doing to kind of take things into the future from a large-scale enterprise perspective. So everybody knows the name Verizon, hopefully, yes, but what does that really mean? So Verizon, we have 144,500 employees. So if you think about that in terms of scale, Super Bowl 53 had 70,000 people at it. So that means that we filled up 2 stadiums at Super Bowl 53 and still had a few thousand people partying in the parking lot tailgating. As of the end of 2018, we're a Fortune ranked 16 company, so one of the top 20 companies in the world. Thank you. Oh, I feel better now. We've got locations absolutely worldwide, but as Verizon, we're not just a telecommunications company. We're not just grandma's landline. We're not just your mobile provider. We are a media company. We have 5G solutions. We're building technology. We're building the future, and just looking at the entire technology gamut and saying, hey, what can we do next? So with that, what made us move to Grafana? When we were initially looking at different solutions for presentations of data, we were on a system, we had about 40 servers that were running analytics for change management, availability management, change tracking, event management, all of these different systems. They were running in an SSRS environment with SQL Server on Windows servers, so imagine the licensing cost for 40 of those. And it wasn't efficient, it wasn't scalable, it wasn't modern, and it was just a pain to get anything done. One of the hardest parts that we ran into was if the business came out and said, hey, we're gonna make this change, this department is now called this, which that never happens in an enterprise. When that happened, you had to do a whole development effort just to change the name on all these reports. It was crazy. So kind of led us to Grafana, just looking at, hey, we need to bring all of these different data sources into a single view for our end users, our executive management, everybody that needs to consume this data.
And going along that aspect as well, I've always been a person who enjoyed open source software, try to contribute where I can. Too much of a difference, guys.
He's a foot taller than me, like exactly, it's sad.
So I looked at what we had in the infrastructure, and I started playing around with Grafana in general. And we started looking at it. I tossed up my little play website and played with my own little data. And some guys came along, looked at it, and said, hey, this is really neat. What can we do on this? Let's look a little more at it, see if we can make it a company directive, maybe. And we were going through, and we had the SQL servers that had licensing costs with it. I was running several MySQL databases with the replication, so I was already set up a lot of the infrastructure dealing with that. And we had our Linux boxes up for a while as well. So we looked at that. We turned around and compared our old model to our new model. and said, gee, this is kind of a no-brainer. Why don't we continue along this path using Grafana? We also had all of our infrastructure on-prem, and every time that you build up on-prem stuff, okay, well, here's a request, build me a server. Okay, here's another request, get the OS on it. All that stuff, we started leveraging.
6 months if you're lucky.
Yeah. We started leveraging some of the containers as well and made a hybrid solution where a lot of our data remains on-prem just because of some of the sensitivity of it. But we can stick the front end in a hybrid situation in cloud and help reduce the time as well, increase our redundancy and everything else that we've got. While we were reviewing it as well, the old SSRS servers, they had over 500,000 lines of stored procedures for the change management, the instance, those type of things. The code had been around for a very long time, and to make a change to it, you were really hoping that what you were doing wasn't going to break something else. We took that 500,000 lines of stored procedure, moved them down to about 500 lines of stored procedures by leveraging a lot of the functions in Grafana itself. Those 500,000 lines were in 200 plus different stored procedures. Lots of them were multi-thousands of lines where everything was the same, but one variable. So when you went to go try and change it, it was hard. We moved that down to 5 total stored procedures where we do all of our change metrics, our instant response, and ticket tracking off of 5 stored procedures now by leveraging Grafana and MySQL. As you can imagine, with those stored procedures and everything else, you know, the 40 plus servers that we had to prep for these org changes that happen, seems like quarterly, pretty much. We had to look and review all that on an ongoing basis, and we had to try to coordinate everything. So we turned around, and by leveraging Grafana, we made a lot of variables dynamic enough that we use them in one place only. And we're fed some of the information so that if an org change happens, we don't have to spend hours or days looking to see what changes. Almost all of it now is dynamic to the point where, great, you made a change? Yeah, I don't have to do anything, or maybe a minor tweak here or there.
And I triple checked these percentages. Thank you. I triple checked these percentages. That's actually correct. 100,000% reduction in stored procedure code, 4,000% in total stored procedures, and 32,000 in development time. So if you think 30 days for a development effort with multiple developers, and taking that down to being automated tasks and really just updating 500 lines of code, the difference is, that's 2 FTE right there. Right, just the difference. And those developers are now they're not focusing on dashboards. Now they can focus on actual good stuff like deliverables and everything that you actually have to get done through the year. And the other piece is a lot of it's automated now. So when we have a business change, or we have a line of business changes names, or a new VP comes on board, or a new VP takes over a group, or there's reorganizations or whatever have you, everything dynamically updates from the source data. So now the dashboards that previously showed the information for one person, now it shows for the new person, and I can automatically get everything that I need, as opposed to somebody's got to go in, every single one of those lines in the stored procedure has to be updated. And then everybody knows what happens when that goes in. You miss one line, and that of course is the line that one VP looks at. Another VP is looking at a completely different dashboard. The 2 numbers don't gel, and your CIO gets 2 different stories from 2 different VPs. And guess who gets the phone call at 2 a.m.?
A lot of it, you know, as Sean was basing there as well. In our prior setup, we had thousands of different reports. A lot of them were similar to each other, but every time you created one of those reports, somebody actually needed to create it. And of course, over time, they're going to go stale. So you don't always know, you know, without checking thousands of dashboards, if they're all working. The automation behind it is extremely difficult to do. So by leveraging Grafana, you empower the end user to be able to make their own results almost. You empower them to be able to select their time range that they want, what organization they're talking about, what VP, so that they can have their own metrics between the ticketing systems, the changes. You can plot out the graphs relatively easily. And now, hey, I need a monthly report or a daily report that shows it. You empower them. You don't have to do it. You can use a standard template and have all that there and allow them the ability to change it so that you're not reusing reports over and over or making minor tweaks of them. It helps make it self-service for the end user. Anybody from a call center rep up to a CIO can turn around and leverage that information and see it in a way that they want to see it. How many of us here have, gotten a set of requirements and, nope, that's not really what I wanted. I wanted this. Yet another person says, nope, I wanted this. And you're kind of torn between what you need to do and how you need to do it. So you just end up doing both of them.
So I think the next big question is, was the change worth it, right? And one of the big things that we first noticed immediately was fewer fire alarms. And when I say fire alarms, I mean late night text messages, late night phone calls that this data's wrong, this data's inconsistent. Emails, significant reduction in emails. Believe it or not, that if you have one dashboard wrong in a company the size of Verizon, you don't hear about it from one person. You get 17 different emails, all from different executive director, different management teams, and you do have to respond to every single one of them because they're not talking to each other. So that was one of the biggest pieces was we were able to focus now on moving into the future instead of focusing on putting out the fires, drop everything, get this done now, and try to figure out where in these 500,000 lines that we missed one specific element that could be causing a problem.
Along that aspect, the late night fire drills. How many of us in here pulled 24-hour days doing something or had to get up at 2 o'clock in the morning to try to fix something? Or you left work and you turned around and said, oh crap, I forgot, I need to do this by the morning. Get home, log in, try to take care of it, and hope that it's all taken care of in the morning. I mean, what's that do to your stress levels? I know over the last 10 years, my stress level and my blood pressure have gone up, I don't know how many different times. Now with the infrastructure that's in place, I don't necessarily have to worry as much about it. Yeah, is it going to happen once in a while? But a majority of the time, you don't have to go, gee, I forgot about this report. I need to do this. I need to do this. You can actually turn around and start to enjoy a little bit of your life. Come on, we've all coded in here. We know what the stress level's like, especially when it's coming from upper management, coming down to visit you, and you've got to get this done. It's just reduced overall personal stress levels and raised the level of life, overall by doing that.
And not just that, but also empowering the end user and empowering the executive. So in the metrics tracking and really the dashboards that we're talking about here, there's different ways to be able to view the same data, right? I can view it based on a subset of applications for a specific VP. I can view it based on a line of business. I can view it based on a CEO for a particular line of business. Or I can just say, I want this subset of point of sale applications, or I want this subset of applications, or this date range, or I need to know quarterly, I need to know monthly, I need to know daily. Previously, that was a completely separate dashboard, completely separate SSRS report for every single one of those that required development effort. Now it's a filter at the top of the page. Bam, here's my name, here's my set of applications that I want. I see the data right there exactly as I need it, and it's consistent across the board. But where the executives like that is now, as Derek was talking about with the requirements docs, they don't have to fill those out anymore. They select what they want, they select the report that they want, they get the data as they need it, makes their ops reviews quicker to put together. Okay, the executives aren't putting the ops reviews together, but the people that are doing it, let's be real. But the individuals that are doing it are able to quickly pull that data. They don't have to come and they don't have to get special queries made for them. They don't have to go through and have special dashboards because this is going to be a quarterly or a monthly activity. It's all right there at their fingertips.
Kind of along that aspect, while they wouldn't let us say how many applications we support, there are a lot of applications. And just the filterability for, we've got, how many different VPs would you guess?
I don't think we can say that either.
Figures, but a bunch. And they all want their own thing for their own applications. Like he says, pick X amount of applications that he owns. The filterability on that alone is great. And it turned around, it just makes life so much easier because we empower the execs for them to be able to do what they want. From the call center rep, the entire breadth of the company, and you can display what you want to display or not display what you want to display. With some of the login abilities of Grafana, if you tie it in to your LDAP ability, you can set it so that certain reports are only available to certain people. So it's got a lot of flexibility and it just makes life so much easier.
So now that we've implemented this fantastic solution that our executive teams and everybody absolutely love, the next question really is where do we go from here? And I think this kind of encompasses any type of large enterprise. It's very difficult to get 150,000 people on board with something and get them all to turn in the right direction. It's, using the Super Bowl analogy before, having everybody exit the stadium takes a long time, and they have to have specific directions, and they have to know exactly how to get there. And so that's what we're doing is we're showing off, we first showed off the capabilities by decommissioning 40 licensed systems, moving it on to this singular platform, single pane of glass. But then the next piece is now we're marketing and we're getting even more teams. We've got cloud engineering teams, our network teams, our storage teams that are coming on board and seeing the power that's available within Grafana and moving away from having to do development efforts for dashboards and metrics reporting systems and everything there, and have it all be quickly put together with some quick queries. There you go, you're done. Now let's move on. Let's not spend years putting dashboards together and talking about dashboards. Let's move on and actually get real work done.
Where do we go from here? We kind of started backwards from what I'm seeing a lot of you guys are doing. We started with just using MySQL. We weren't using Influx. We weren't using any of those other systems yet. And this conference has opened my eyes up to a lot of different possibilities that are out there that I didn't really know existed. We are going to expand into other to be named data sources to be able to store some of this information, to make some of the response times a little bit better, to correlate the data a little bit better than what we have right now. I love Percona's demonstration here. It showed a lot of the do's and don'ts and things that, he pointed out that I've learned over a time frame. I wish I knew those, 6 months ago when I started this. As with everything, you got to learn it the hard way once in a while. But what we also did here, the data source expansion part, to give you an idea, Sean was talking about the 40 plus servers. We're running this entire metrics platform, web server, and database off of 2 servers and being redundant right now. And they're not big servers. They're 8 core servers, 16 gig of memory, and we're running it off everything that we need off those servers.
So that makes the executives happy when you show money savings. So. And the other key piece, I think the problem that a lot of people came to solve with Grafana is the same one that we had. And hearing a lot of the talks, talking to people out in the hall, is everybody wants a single pane of glass, right? And we've talked about it in IT for 20 years, that everything should be in one place. And all of these big vendors come through and they say, oh yeah, no, we can totally do it if you only use our products. That doesn't help me. I've got N number of legacy systems that I can't move to your product. What do I do with those? Just migrate off of them. So that's the other key really selling point that we're taking to all of these teams that need to consume data, to the executive teams, is, hey, this truly is that single pane of glass solution. There's more data sources being added on a regular basis. It's an open source solution for those data sources. So, hey, maybe it doesn't exist today, but it could exist tomorrow. We have plenty of talent within the company that could certainly contribute and create those data sources if they're needed. And that's really just the key is, hey, let's bring everything together. Why do we have all these different systems out there? But that's pretty much it from a current Verizon story, just continuing expansion. So I appreciate everyone's time. If anybody has any questions, we can certainly open it up. If not, our emails are up there. So, yeah.
You talked about using a lot of it for executive reporting. Are your executives fine with just seeing the web view of it, or are you having to get it out into virtual physical paper somehow?
They are good with the web view. That actually was, having it on paper was never a difficult issue. The problem that we had moving the executives away from was getting an email. I don't know why. It's fine. They can view it on their phone. They can view it anywhere they need. They've got full access to it. But not getting an email was a huge issue. But other than that, that's really been the only hurdle we had there.
What were some of the challenges you faced moving from an on-prem solution to a hybrid approach?
Security. Security's always been the biggest issue. What we're doing right now, we're still kind of going through a lot of security scans and everything else. We're really keeping a lot of our data on-prem, and then we've got all the on-prem with the encryption on-prem, and then we use TLS for encryption in transit for the hybrid approach there. And that's the main reason that we're looking at hybrid over a full cloud approach. Certainly some options that we could look at in the future, but there is quite a bit of sensitive data that the security and governance teams are uncomfortable with having out there.
So I understood you moved from Microsoft SQL Server to MySQL, and besides the obvious cost reductions, did you notice any impact on performance using this as a data source?
My team is much more well versed in MySQL, so that's a difficult question to answer because yes, we did, but I don't know if it's because they have more knowledge in MySQL. The other issue that we ran into was I lost a lot of my SQL Server developers, so it was kind of twofold. Had to move off of it, but and Derek could probably speak more of the technical side of that.
I've played some with both of them. I am stronger in MySQL and open source databases in general, but I have yet to find very many things, honestly, that a lot of the open source databases will not do as good or better than MS SQL. I mean, look at the graphs that you've seen here throughout this weekend. Postgres and MySQL are normally 1, 2, or 2 and 3. So we did not really notice a performance difference. We did have to reorganize the data a little bit coming into us, change of mindset on how one database deals with the data versus the other. So there is some of that in the planning. You can't just take the data and toss it in and say, yep, everything's going to work. But during that migration time frame is also a great time to review the data and say, gee, is this a leftover legacy that nobody has used in 5 years? And work to clean up your code a little bit and optimize things. Did some of our performance enhancements happen because of that? Most likely. What the scale was to it, though, can't really tell you.
All right. So curious, how did you get the executives to stop wanting you to email them dashboards?
Do you want a politically correct answer or really?
I think whichever.
It honestly depends on the executive. There are still a few that require emails. I have, unfortunately, 1 or 2 items that are still coded out there that have to go out via email. It's been a slow transition. It really has. For the most part, a lot of the ones that are more forward-thinking, if you will, that aren't necessarily legacy telecom that have been with the company for 40 years, maybe. No offense to anybody, no. But yeah, absolutely. That and really, in any situation, when somebody is used to having something a certain way, getting that changed is really the hardest part. But when you show the value of being able to access it online, and it's not you're getting a static report every day that's telling you information. It's you can pull it up with a specific URL with the query strings in there, however you want to see it. But then if you want to know more about, oh, well, what happened yesterday? Well, I can click on yesterday. I don't have to go and pull up another email. Well, how does this compare over how I'm doing over the month? Or how does this compare to what I did, this time last year? Now, oh, so this is much more powerful than an email. Yeah, that's the idea.
You say you almost had to do it one by one?
It really was kind of a grassroots campaign. It really was. And because of the level of metrics and the executives that we support, we do have a lot of contact with them. So just join the staff call. Join their staff calls. Quick 5-minute presentation. Hey, check out what you can do if you just go here. I'll email you the link for your specific information. Really helped, and we're continuing those and getting them more comfortable with the Grafana system, which I think is going to help with moving with future reports as well.
So were you running these two systems in parallel?
We did. We ran them in parallel for about a month for multiple reasons. One, we wanted to make sure that the metrics matched. And then the other piece was we wanted, we put splash pages and banners and everything. So, we could show everyone, hey, this is coming. At the end of the month, this is, the system you're on right now is going to be decommissioned.
So, from my understanding, you guys are running pretty much one Grafana instance, and then everyone access to that. Did you have any issues with users accessing the wrong data or having permissions? Is it kind of at a dashboard level, or is that a user basis? What information someone can access through data sources?
We got a couple of different items. We set up pretty decent fact pages that also help explain to them. Anytime you get into specifically metrics, you can read metrics multiple ways. So we made sure that when we did it, we documented out, this is how this is calculated. This is what this actually means. Because one of the worst things that you can have is interpretation of the same data 2 different ways. We wanted to drive continuity across the enterprise so that when you looked at it and you looked at it, you saw the same thing, not an interpretation of it. Education to the end users was kind of key to it. And in our case, when you start at the exec level and work down, they generally will trickle it down to their own staffs underneath it, which helped make our job a lot easier. Luckily, we didn't have to start at the bottom level and teach up. That would be a harder adoption level.
Is that documentation in or outside Grafana?
That is actually outside of Grafana. We moved it almost to like a form-based thing where you could turn around, oh, hey, I don't understand this. It also provided an open level of communication between our end user community and ourselves. So we were kind of new at this and we wanted to make sure we didn't miss something. So that's why we tried to make it really open and seamless between us and our end users.
And again, we appreciate all the questions. Emails are up there, so if there's any further questions, please feel free to reach out, and we can certainly assist, but we're being kicked off, so we got to go. Thanks, everyone.